Alright, we are live, ladies and germs, and got a lot to talk about in tonight's review. Some news stories and some opinion pieces I want to put out there. And what can you say about Kyle Larson at this point? This dude is just unhuman. You know, he's been winning, NASCAR races, and then he goes out and, wins sprint car races on local dirt tracks. I mean, honestly, at this point, who can step up and stop him? I don't think anybody can at this present time. I think the only person that can stop Kyle Larson is Kyle Larson, because he's just been unreal. He is not on fire. He is the sun. Because he is just so blazing hot right now, and that 5 team is just on it right now. Like, this is Lewis Hamilton-esque domination from this 5 team. It's just been unprecedented. So we got a lot to talk about. So let's get into it. This is The Fuel. What is happening, ladies and germs? This is the Packer Man, and welcome to our second edition of The Fuel here today. Of course, I did the Formula One review earlier today, a couple hours ago. But this is our second edition of The Fuel, and we're going to be talking about the 2021 Ally 400 from the Nashville Super Speedway, the 1 1/3 mile concrete trioval that saw its first racing action for the first time in a decade. And overall, the racing was pretty good. I mean, the trucks and the Xfinity Series races were pretty good. The Cup Series race, though, well, shut up. But, yeah, the Cup race, I mean, it wasn't terrible, but good lord. There were some parts of this race that were just god-awful and extremely messy, to say the least. This was one of the messiest races of the year, and it all has to do with brake failures. There were a lot of teams that were really caught out by Nashville Super Speedway and how hard on brakes it was. And there were multiple brake failures in this race. I mean, there were like 6 or 7 in this race, and it was just absolutely insane. Where we were seeing all kinds of brake failures, which then resulted in flat tires and people hitting the wall. It was just absolutely crazy, to say the least. What do you want, little shitty? What you want? What you want? That you scabby? Yep. But, obviously, the big news of the day from the first headline, 3-peat for Larson. 4 if you count the All-Star race, which I did not cover this season. I mean, I didn't cover the Clash, so it's like, you know what, I'm just going to take the week off I'll talk about it some here in a little bit, but yeah, Kyle Larson, just absolutely unbelievable. If you count the All-Star race, that is 4 wins in a row for Kyle Larson. And then you also factor in that he also had 3 runner-up finishes before that. So counting the All-Star race, that's 7 top 2 finishes in a row for this 5-car. They are just on it right now. Absolutely on it. This is our 95th edition of the Fuel. And the title of this episode, I mean, it's pretty obvious why I chose this one. Unstoppable. Unfreaking stoppable. That's what Kyle Larson and that 5 team is right now. They have been so utterly dominant. Like, it's insane. It is absolutely insane what Kyle Larson and that 5 Hendrick team have been pulling off the last month and a half, 2 months. Like, if it weren't for some pretty shitty luck earlier this season, they probably would have, like, I don't know, 7 wins at this point. Like, good lord. I mean, they led Kyle Larson led 264 of the 300 laps in today's race. That is absolutely ridiculous. After leading over 300 laps in the Coca-Cola 600, after leading more than half the race at Sonoma, and now that he comes back and does another 300, almost 300 laps, 264 this time around. I mean, good lord, man. He is just curb stomping this field right now. It seems like the only time these guys have any semblance of a chance is on restarts, and even then, they can't seem to keep up with them. I mean, what else can you say about Kyle Larson at this point? That dude is unbelievable. He is, I mean, Eric Estep said it best. He's probably the best driver in North America right now. You know, there were some people that were like, well, what about guys like Alex Palou, who's leading the IndyCar standings right now? While I think that Alex Palou is a pretty damn good driver, I don't think he's on the level of Kyle Larson. I mean, is Alex Palou going out and driving a 3,400 pound stock car and then also going out and driving sprint cars and winning races there, and considering the fact that that's a completely different form of racing than what he's used to in the Cup Series? Yeah. Right now, no one is on Kyle Larson's level. I mean, we always thought that Larson had a lot of potential to do great things in the Cup Series. It just felt like, you know, Ganassi Racing just wasn't the perfect fit for him. He's found the perfect fit at Hendrick Motorsports. Like, good fucking grief right now, man. It seems like Hendrick Motorsports can do no wrong, although the 9 teams certainly did some wrong, which we're going to get to in a minute. This is why I always wait until after tech inspection is complete before I do these reviews, because the 9 car was disqualified from today's race. Now, granted, he only had a 13th place finish, but the reason why he was disqualified is because it was discovered in post-race tech inspection that he had 5 loose lug nuts. Now, obviously, they're not all on the same wheel. It was more than one wheel. But Elliott was reporting that he did feel like he had a loose wheel. And according to the rule book, if you have, I think if it's 3 loose lug nuts, you're disqualified. So, yeah. And he finished 13th in this race, but he also won stage 1. And that's 1 playoff point. And now, because of this disqualification, Chase Elliott is going to lose that stage win and that stage point. And that playoff point, I should say. And that's going to go instead to Kurt Busch, who finished runner-up. So it wasn't all hunky-dory for Hendrick Motorsports, at least as far as Chase Elliott is concerned. William Byron had a good car. I think he finished third. But Ross Chastain finished second and broke that 1-2 string that they tied with Carl Keikheimer's team. Just barely got nicked out of breaking that record. But there's no question Hendrick Motorsports is just stomping a mud hole into the field and walking it dry. Like, good fucking grief. They're just absolutely unbelievable right now. In particular, that 5 team. Like, and now the real question at this point is, with Larson at 4 wins now, he's won the last 3, including the All-Star race. The real question that's being presented now is, who is going to stop him? Who is going to step up to the plate and challenge this 5 team? Because at this point, I mean, and what makes this so crazy is the fact that we're deep into this season now. We're about to the halfway point. The Saturday race at Pocono this coming Saturday will mark the halfway point of the season. And up until Larson's domination, this had been a season of extreme parity. Like, we have 11 different winners so far in 2021. And now you got Kyle Larson just absolutely raffle stomping the field the last month or so, and proving that that 5 team is, without a shadow of a doubt, the clear-cut favorite for the championship. Who's going to step up to the plate and challenge Larson? Because right now, if he is not on your short list of championship favorites, you're out of your mind. You are out of your mind. Like, who is performing better than that 5 team right now? It's like Kyle Busch said, finishing runner-up to Hendrick Motorsports right now is an accomplishment. Well, it's not just Hendrick Motorsports, it's that 5 team and Kyle Larson. I mean, that combination of Hendrick Motorsports, Kyle Larson behind the wheel, Cliff Daniels, the crew chief, they are just making magic right now. And it's just unprecedented. We have not seen domination of this level in years. I mean, we've seen drivers, go on a string before, but not like this. I mean, he's led the most laps in the last 3 races. In this entire 3-race winning streak, he has led the most laps in all 3 races. So I asked the question again, who's going to step up to the plate? I mean, you would think, Joe Gibbs Racing would do it. I mean, it looked like Truex was going to be a legitimate challenger for the championship. He has 3 wins on the year, but he hasn't really looked all that good the last month or so, except maybe Sonoma. But I mean, Kevin Harvick was good in this race. I think he either got a top 5 or a top 10. I can't remember. He was in the top 10 though. But right now, it is going to be a tall task to beat that 5 team. I mean, it seems like the only way you could probably do it is on alternate strategy, and even then I don't see that working, because that 5 car has just been so damn fast, it doesn't seem to matter. It just does not seem to matter, no matter what anybody has done. And I can't stress that enough. What the 5 team is doing right now is insane. It is insanity. 3 straight wins, but they've been completely dominant. Coca-Cola 600 led over 300 laps of a 400-lap race. Sonoma led more than half the race. I think it was like 50 some odd laps that he led. And then today at Nashville, led 264 of the race's 300 laps. I mean, that is way more than 3/4 of the entire race. And you know what all those wins are doing and all those stage wins are doing? He is just piling up those playoff points. You're going to basically try to do what Truex did in 2017. Used all those playoff points to just cruise right into the championship four. And he may be getting a boatload more before this season's over with, because he's not that far behind Denny Hamlin for the point lead. Hamlin had a humongous point lead earlier this season, you know, when he was knocking down top fives like they were nothing. But now it seems like that 11 team has fallen off just a touch. And with Larson just suddenly coming alive, the gap between Hamlin and Larson for that number one spot, not that much. It's not that much. How much? It's only a stage win, but separating them right now. Yeah. Larson has been, I mean, you can't praise the guy enough. And I know there are some people that, you know, just still can't stand the guy because he uttered a racial slur last year, and people are still holding on to that. People, just fucking let it go at this point. He's paid his penance, okay? He had to sit out pretty much all of last year because of that one word he uttered. For most drivers, that is a death sentence. When you have to sit out for an entire year because of something you did, I mean, that's typically a death sentence in the world of motorsports. You know, and he has tried his damnedest to, you know, educate himself, you know, learn from his mistake, and never utter it again. And he's gotten his second chance. Was it a dumb thing they said? Absolutely it was. And I even said as much last year when it happened. I said that is absolutely the dumbest thing you could have possibly done, is utter that kind of a slur on a live stream, no less, when there were thousands of people watching. Of course Ganassi had to let him go at that point. I mean, look how damaging it was to Ganassi's reputation for keeping him on board. Or how it would have damaged his reputation if he would have kept him on board. He had no choice but to let him go. Because I guarantee you, if you walk into any place of work and utter that slur, you're gone. It's common fucking sense, people. But at the same time, he has paid his penance. You know, he was given a pretty harsh punishment. I mean, he lost his ride. He lost his sponsors. I mean, he lost basically a year of his career. He's paid his dues. And he deserves a second chance. And he has taken full advantage of it. And honestly, I don't think he really gives a fuck if you agree with that or not. And honestly, I mean, you people just need to let it the fuck go. Okay, what's done is done. It's in the past. He's learned from it. And he's making the most of his second opportunity. Now, obviously, if he fucks up and, you know, does it again, then, you know, we have a completely different conversation right now. But at this point in time, I'm willing to chalk it up to being a Freudian slip. I honestly don't think he's racist whatsoever. I think it was just a Freudian slip. It is what it is. It was a mistake. It was a big mistake. But I think a lot of people are just hanging on to that for way too fucking long when it doesn't need to. When you don't even need to. So, just drop the bullshit. Let's move on from it. He's learned his lesson. He's paid his dues. He's earned his second chance. Let's move on from there. If you don't like him, you know, as a driver, then fine, whatever. But if you want to continue holding on to that and saying, well, he shouldn't be driving because he's a racist, just shut the fuck up, okay? That's just dumb shit. You're grasping at straws at that point. And it just makes you look like a fucking idiot. Okay? So, I told you there was a lot to talk about. But there's still a lot of stuff that I do want to talk about, a couple of opinion pieces, and some other shit that I wanted to talk about as well. But I'm going to break from format this time around because Normally I do all the race headlines and stuff like that, and then I go into the review, but I'm going to do the review first, and then we'll get into the stuff that I want to talk about. So let's go ahead and get into the race review, get that done and over with. The 2021 Ally 400 at the Nashville Super Speedway. It's pretty damn obvious that people in Nashville still love their motorsports, because this place was sold out. Like, there was a couple of pictures of, you know, people in the grandstands, and it was jam-packed. In fact, this race was delayed by 10 minutes due to traffic issues, a la Kentucky 2011, and Lord knows I know what that's like. I think I've told this story before, but yeah, when the Cup Series first went to Kentucky in 2011, me and my family, we went to watch that race, and we got to within 10 miles of the track, and it was a traffic jam. It took 4 hours to travel 10 fucking miles. And then when we got there, we had to park a mile up on the hills and the boonies. The concessions were overpriced and just fucking garbage. The race wasn't even that good. I mean, it's cool to see the track and all that good stuff, but the race itself wasn't that good, and then it took us another 3 hours just to leave the track, because you had people still trying to come in at that point, and then you had people trying to leave. It was just a giant clusterfuck. And it seemed to have some similarities to it, because there were some traffic issues, basically because they put a price on parking. Yeah, parking was not free. They were basically asking for money for parking, which I think is just absolutely fucking stupid. And it caused all this jam up, and then afterwards they were like, well, we're not going to charge for parking anymore. And it's just like, well, what the fuck? I mean, you charged all those people that first came in, you know, for parking, and now you're just not going to do it for the other people? Like, how is that even remotely fucking fair? Like, that's stupid shit, dude. I mean, if it was going to be that much of a headache, then why did you even charge for parking at all? Like, Jesus Christ, people. So that was a bit of a fail on the organizer's part. But it was a bit of a success, because, I mean, it was sold out. So it's pretty obvious that interest in a Cup Series event in Nashville is pretty damn alive. And this actually bodes really well for the Nashville Fairgrounds, because, you know, they're looking at that and saying, man, they really had a lot of people show up. Pretty much a sold out crowd for the Cup Series event. So it's like, man, we could get that many people into Nashville. But there were some drivers that had to go to the rear of the field for a variety of reasons. William Byron for an unapproved track bar adjustment. Eric Jones had to go to the rear after repairs after scraping the wall in qualifying, and Quinn Houff had to go to the rear for an unapproved adjustment. And then right before the race began, Ryan Blaney, the transition from the apron up onto the track coming out of pit road is a bit abrupt, and when he came up onto the track as they were coming out for parade laps, he actually damaged the left rear quarter panel. He actually flared it out a little bit. Which is not exactly a good thing, because then that thing acts like a parachute. So they had to come back down pit road and get that repaired, and had to give up his starting spot. So not a good start for Blaney, and it only got worse. So crazy shit before we even got to the start. And we had a bit of a surprising pole sitter for this race. They actually had time trials for this one, because it's a new racetrack at Nashville Super Speedway, making its debut in the Cup Series. So they had practice and qualifying, and Eric Almirola was the surprise pole sitter. So he started from the pole, and then we had our first caution on the very first lap when Quinn Houff hit the wall after the right front tire basically came completely off the car. Makes you wonder if they didn't get the tire completely on the car. And he even said that he felt like there was a vibration on the car. You know, he was complaining about a vibration before the start. And then, you know, very first lap, turn one, boom. tire comes completely off the car. I mean, it makes me wonder if NASCAR is going to investigate that and maybe penalize the team for an improperly mounted wheel, which carries with it a 4-race suspension for tire changer, crew chief, and the jackman. I think there's a monetary fine in there as well. But if they do, it'll probably come out on Tuesday, which is usually penalty day for NASCAR. But Kyle Busch managed to get into the lead going into turn 1, so he leads on the restart. Then we had 3 wide for the lead on the restart, with Larson splitting the middle between Kyle Busch and Eric Almirola. Larson seems to love doing that. I remember him doing that at Darlington when he was trying to chase down Truex. Of course, that was between 2 lap cars. This was for the lead of the race. Logano and Almirola made contact fighting for the 3rd position, but they keep going. Green flag pit stops began on lap number 40, so there wasn't really a whole lot that went on between that restart and up to this point. And then on second caution on lap 46, right in the middle of green flag pit stops, Tyler Reddick was coming off of pit road and basically came out a little bit too hot, got off into the grass, and ended up spinning out, and that ended up causing the caution. As I said, right in the middle of green flag pit stops. Cole Custer and Ross Chastain were caught speeding on pit road before that, so that was a tough break for them. Those who didn't stop under green would pit under this caution. And Kyle Larson and Kyle Busch actually pit under green, but because of where they were pitted and when they pit, and of course, you know, they were like 1st and 2nd on top of that, they were basically able to go in, get their service, and go back out, and then when everybody else came in, they could just stay out and reassume the lead. So it was a lucky break for them. Kyle Busch leads on the restart, but then Larson uses the air to push Kyle Busch up the racetrack and retake the lead. Let's not forget that this is using the high horsepower, low downforce package. So these drivers were having to drive these cars. And Larson basically used the air to get Kyle Busch aero loose and pushed him up the racetrack to retake the lead. So we had our first pure lead change on lap 54. And then we had our 3rd caution on lap 55. And this was our first case of brake failure, when Ryan Blaney loses his brakes and hits the turn 1 wall hard. I mean, it was a hard hit. Larson leads on the restart as the Kyle and Kyle show once again. Elliott gets by Kyle Busch for 2nd. Ricky Stenhouse actually had a good run in this race. He was up to 4th in lap 65 and goes by Kyle Busch for 3rd. The Busch brothers battle for 4th as Kyle reports a loose condition on his car, something that they could really never get fixed for the entirety of the race. Then we had one of the weirdest incidents I'd ever personally ever seen, and the broadcasters even noted as much as well. 4th caution on lap 79. Justin Haley cuts down a tire and hits the turn 1 wall, and at the exact same time, Chris Buescher does the exact same thing right behind him. Probably running over something off the 77 car. Either that or they both ran over a piece of debris at the same fucking time. Like, how the hell does that happen? So that was just weird. You know, two drivers, 2 completely different teams, same instance of tire failure. Bear in mind, 79 laps in, we're already at 4 cautions. Very messy start to this race. Very messy. Most of the field comes in for service, but Chase Elliott decides to stay out. Bowman gets nabbed for speeding on pit road. That was also another thing. There was a lot of speeding penalties and a lot of silly penalties too. Elliott leads on the restart. Larson starts coming back towards the front in a hurry on fresh tires. Elliott wins stage 1, of course, with his disqualification. That is no longer the case. Kurt Busch would be elevated to the stage 1 win. So assuming that Kurt manages to get into the playoff, he has a playoff point coming his way. Very sloppy first stage. Like 4 cautions in the first 90 laps of this race. Like, that is messy, messy, messy. And the racing wasn't that good either. Those who didn't pit under the previous caution have to come in under this stage break. So stage number 2, almost forgot. Stages broke down like this. Stage 1 was 90 laps. Stage 2, 95 laps. Stage 3, 115 laps for a total of 300. Almost forgot to do that. Stage 2, 95 laps. Larson leads the start of Stage 2. Stenhouse moves up to third on the restart. And before the last restart, Truex was penalized for a pit road entry violation. Apparently, you're supposed to enter on the outside of the pit lane, and he was basically one lane over. Personally, I think that's a pretty dumb penalty. I mean, I don't understand the reasoning for that. Stenhouse gets by Kyle Busch for second. Yep, for second. And Hamlin gets by Busch for third as Busch begins to backslide. They were just never able to catch up with the handling of that car. Ross Chastain moves up into the top 5 on lap 113. That 42 team is starting to really come alive here recently. De Benedetto reported a possible engine issue on lap 127, but I think he made it the rest of the way. Caution number 5 on lap 133. Bubba Wallace runs over some debris, cuts down a left rear tire, and spins in turn 2. Everyone comes in for service, and Larson wins the race off pit road. We had 2 more penalties on this pit stop. Christopher Bell was penalized for an uncontrolled tire. It's pretty obvious because it went out into the grass. And Truex was penalized for speeding on pit road. So that's 2 penalties on Truex now, which was basically unavoidable. Both of these penalties were under caution. I mean, you would think he would know better at this point. Larson leads on the restart. William Byron up into the top 10 on lap 140 after having to start at the rear of the field. Stenhouse gets by Kyle Busch for second again. Battle for fourth between Hamlin, Logano, and Harvick, which was pretty good. There was some good racing inside the top 10 at this point. There was a lot of back and forth between a lot of various drivers, including Eric Almirola, who moved by as teammate Harvick for fifth. Hamlin gets by Kyle Busch for third, but Kyle fights back around the outside, and Almirola joins the fray as well, so had a 3-way battle for the third position. Almirola gets by Kyle Busch for third, while Harvick gets by Hamlin for fifth. And then we had our 6th caution on lap 173 when Cole Custer loses a right rear tire. He was able to keep it under control, but then the tire started coming apart and basically shed debris all over the racetrack, so they had to throw the caution. And it was yet another brake rotor issue. Everyone comes in for service. Briscoe is first off with 2 tires, a bit of a risky move, with Larson first off with 4 tires. Briscoe leads on the restart. You had 6 pack of cars fighting at the bottom half of the top 10. That was pretty cool. But Kyle Larson easily gets by Briscoe for the lead. Second pure lead change on lap 181. Tyler Reddick nearly loses it in turn 2. Got really loose, but was able to hang on to it. That dirt track experience really helps. Byron gets by Hamlin for the 5th position, and Kyle Larson wins stage number 2. A little bit better second stage. The racing was definitely a little bit better. So now we come to stage 3, which is 115 laps. Larson leads the start of stage 3. Hamlin moves up to third on the restart. We have a battle for fourth between the Busch brothers, Elliott and Stenhouse, and then Kyle Busch starts dropping like a rock. I mean, after this, after things really get going, after this next round of caution flags, he dropped like a rock all the way to the rear of the lead lap. I mean, the handling of his car just went down the drain. But then we have our 7th caution on lap 198 when Ryan Preece loses a right front tire and spins in turn 2. Don't really know if this was another rotor failure or not, but considering the track record, probably. Several drivers come in for service under this caution. Larson leads on the restart. Byron gets loose underneath of Larson, which was a bit of a scary moment. Larson even saw it coming and actually moved up the track to avoid Byron getting into him. It gave Hamlin a chance to get underneath of both of them for the lead, but Byron holds them off on the restart. Then we get our 8th caution on lap 218 when Bubba Wallace, spins down the backstretch after kind of bonking off of Michael McDowell. His car got tight off of turn 2. He got into Michael McDowell and it spun him out. It spun the 23 out, not the 34. Everyone comes in for service at this point. Larson wins the race off pit road. Chastain stays out and inherits the race lead. And this would be Larson's final pit stop of the day. Can he make it 82 laps on fuel? Chastain leads on the restart, but Larson easily retakes the lead in turn 1. Byron moves up to second. Then we have our 9th caution on lap 228 when Chase Briscoe loses his brakes in turn 4. Kind of ricochets off the turn 4 wall, but is able to keep it going. I'm not really sure this warranted a caution flag. They threw it immediately as soon as he hit the wall. I mean, I think it was a knee-jerk reaction for that caution. So we're up to 9 cautions at this point. Chastain leads a group of cars onto pit road for service, so he has 10 lap fresher tires than the guys in front of him. Larson leads on the restart. Elliott tries to go 3 wide but backs off. Harvick moves up to 3rd on the restart. Larson starts getting some debris on his grill. There was a few pieces of paper, and then all of a sudden a big piece of plastic comes over the grill, and his engine was actually starting to overheat a little bit. But then he got up behind the 51 of J.J. Yaley, and he was able to get that debris off his nose, because the difference in pressure between the two cars when you move up behind another car is pretty significant, and it basically helped blow the debris off the front of the 5 car. So that, I think, certainly helped the overheating issue. We have a battle for 4th between Elliott, Almirola, and Kurt Busch, which was pretty good. Larson and Byron trying to save some fuel to make it the rest of the way. Yes, this is becoming a fuel mileage race, and there were actually several cars that had to pit at the end of this race for fuel. But what Larson was able to do, he was able to pull away from the field, and then he started he was able to save fuel and yet maintain his gap, which is just absolutely unbelievable. I mean, he would back off really early, and according to Eric Estep, who was actually in the stands for this race, he could hear Larson basically shutting his engine off going into turn 1, and the lead was never diminishing. Like, that is just excellent fuel mileage and excellent fuel saving mode by Kyle Larson. Like, that is just unbelievable. Chastain starts coming back to the field on fresh tires. He doesn't have to worry about fuel at this point. He's up to 5th with 30 laps to go. Chastain then moves up to 4th by Almirola with 15 to go. Kurt Busch and Stenhouse make some contact off turn 4, fighting for 6th, and they actually had a great battle for 6th, but they kept it straight. Chastain gets by Harvick for 3rd as Truex has to pit for fuel. Chastain gets by Byron for the 2nd position, but is 5.7 seconds behind Larson with 7 laps to go, and was never really able to catch up with him. Kurt Busch nearly hits the wall off turn 4, and he actually runs out of gas but makes it to the finish. Hamlin has to pit for fuel, and Kyle Larson with his 3rd consecutive victory, winning the Ally 400, leading 264 of the race's 300 laps. Just absolute domination by Kyle Larson. And then, of course, in tech inspection, Chase Elliott, who finished 13th in the race, ends up getting disqualified for 5 missing lug nuts. Ouch. Hold on one second. Jesus Christ, cats. What the hell are you doing? Get the fuck off the back. Jesus Christ. Lord. Frickin' cats, man. But like I was saying, Chase Elliott got disqualified for 5 missing lug nuts. Obviously not all on the same tire. But he goes from finishing 13th to finishing 39th. And he also loses the stage win that he earned in stage 1. And the playoff point that goes with it. So that's a tough break for Chase Elliott. So, let's take a look at some statistics here. Overall lead changes, we had just 14 overall lead changes in this race. Only 2 of them pure lead changes with 9 caution flags. Obviously not very good. I mean, the fuel mileage was definitely interesting, and there were some good battles in the midfield, but let's be honest here, this race was not the best in the world. I mean, it was easily the weakest out of all three divisions this weekend. Because the Truck Series was good, the Xfinity race was good. Of course, Kyle Busch got his 100th Xfinity win as well, becoming just the third driver to win, to reach the century mark in any of the top three divisions. The other two, of course, being Richard Petty and David Pearson. So there's that. But other than that, this was basically a run-of-the-mill race. I mean, it was still a successful race from NASCAR's point of view, because the Nashville fan base, they love their racing there, it seems like, because they sold that place out. So, I mean, if you want an indicator as to, you know, if they're interested in stock car racing in Nashville, there you go. First time in 37 years that the Cup Series has raced in Nashville. Of course, when they were there previously, they were at the Nashville Fairgrounds. This was their first trip to the Nashville Super Speedway. So, despite the fact that the race was not that impressive, I would say it was a successful venture for NASCAR to go to the Nashville Super Speedway. So, I think that's a job well done there. So, race results for the Ally 400 at the Nashville Super Speedway. Of course, Kyle Larson with the win. 264 laps led out of 300. Just, what else can you say at this point? Ross Chastain with his best career finish. That 42 team's starting to come alive a little bit here. The Watermelon Man getting his best career finish. William Byron coming home in third after having to start from the rear of the field due to a unapproved adjustment. Eric Almirola with his first top 5 of the season, just his second top 10 of the year after starting from the pole. So they finally have something go their way. So good job by Eric Almirola and Kevin Harvick as well, who comes home in the 5th position. Ricky Stenhouse Jr., good run for him, coming home in 6th. Daniel Suarez continuing to punch above his weight in the Trackhouse 99 car. Of course, that's that team's home. This is their team's home race. So I would say they did a damn good job, considering that this is a first-year operation. Kurt Busch ran out of fuel coming to the checkered, but was able to coast home in the 8th position. So he salvages the top 10 and does have that stage win now to his credit. Christopher Bell had to overcome an uncontrolled tire penalty, comes home in 9th, and Joey Logano with a quiet run in the 10th position. But what's interesting is the point standings. Look at that points lead for Denny Hamlin. He still holds it, but Kyle Larson is nipping at his heels. Kyle Larson's just 10 points out of the championship lead, and he is a threat to win the regular season title and the 15 playoff points that come with it. And look at how many laps Larson has led this year compared to everybody else. He has now doubled what Denny Hamlin has led this season. That is just unprecedented. 1,426 laps. And we're not even to the halfway point of the season yet. He has 12 stage wins, for God's sake. The most that we've seen in a season since they went to the stage format is 19, which was done by Truex in 2017 and by Kevin Harvick in 2018. He's on track to shatter that record. And he's only 10 points behind Hamlin for the championship lead. William Byron holds down the 3rd spot. He's 81 points behind Hamlin, though. Chase Elliott in the 4th position. So the DQ does hurt him quite a bit, but not really as much as it probably could have if this was a full season format. He does have the win at Coda, which locks him into the playoff. So he's okay in that regard. Logano holds down the 5th position. Kyle Busch, despite his struggles, he's 6th in the championship now, so he's still moving forward up the point standings. Truex drops to 7th. He's continuing his free fall. He's won 3 times this year, but he's only finished in the top 10 9 out of the 17 races. So wildly inconsistent on that 19 team. Kevin Harvick, who has still not won yet this year, as well as Denny Hamlin. He's 8th in points. Ryan Blaney in 9th. Brad Keselowski in the 10th position. Man, only 5 top 10 finishes for Keselowski in 17 races. not exactly the season that he had been looking for. Austin Dillon in 11th, Alex Bowman in the 12th position. We're going to be talking about him here in a minute. Tyler Reddick with 8 top 10 finishes so far, so he's looking pretty decent so far this year. Christopher Bell in 14th, Chris Buescher in 15th, and then Michael McDowell rounds out the final playoff spot at the moment. And then you have Kurt Busch, Ricky Stenhouse Jr., Matt DiBenedetto, and Ross Chastain rounding out the top 20. As for my final rating for the Ally 400 at Nashville, this was a very messy race. Lots of brake rotor issues, lots of just dumb decision making, a lot of silly penalties, and absolute domination by Kyle Larson yet again. So the battle for the lead was pretty much non-existent for the third week in a row. Although there were some good battles back in the midfield, mainly in the back half of the top 10, that were actually pretty good. And the restarts, I mean, it was interesting for the most part. And the fuel mileage, I thought, was also pretty cool as well. So I was like, man, can they really go that far on fuel? And they ended up pulling it off. Kurt Busch nearly didn't make it on fuel, but he ended up making it and got a top 10 finish for his efforts. And he's also going to have a stage win to his credit as well. So there's that. He's still outside the top 16, but he still got a shot at it. So, yeah, this was not that good of a race. I mean, it was just way too messy for my liking. 9 caution flags, that's just unacceptable. And like I said, way too many brake failures. It was just kind of ridiculous. But it wasn't completely trash, because like I said, there was some good racing here and there, and the fuel mileage was pretty cool. So I'm going to go on my Bret Hart shit and give this race a 4 on the fuel gauge. So a 4 out of 10. I mean, it was a somewhat okay-ish race. I mean, it wasn't the best thing in the world. Like I said, it was easily the weakest out of all 3 NASCAR races this weekend. But, I mean, it wasn't completely terrible. So it could have been better, but it also could have been worse. So there you go. But with all that out of the way, yep, we're not done with this review yet. Well, the review portion is done, but there's some other things that I would like to talk about. Like there's some news stories that I want to get to. If the cats would stop doing their stupid shit over there. Good Lord. Lord have mercy. Alright, so anywho, one of the things that came out a little bit ago, I can't remember when it was like a week or 2 ago, was that Alex Bowman got a contract extension. And of course, due to the fact that he's won twice this year, he won at Richmond, which was a bit of a surprise. He kind of snookered that one from Hamlin. And then he led the final 80 some odd laps and outran Larson at Dover for his 2nd win of the year. So as a result of all this, Hendrick Motorsports has extended their contract with Alex Bowman, a 2-year contract extension. Now, the previous time it was only a 1-year extension, so this was a contract year for him. But due to his performances and getting 2 wins so far this year, he gets a 2-year contract extension. So he's going to be driving the number 48 car for at least until 2023. The end of 2023, I should say. So I think it's pretty well earned. He's got 4 wins driving for Hendrick Motorsports. Of course, driving the 88 car at first. And 2 wins in that car, and then moving over to the 48 car, where he's earned 2 wins so far this season at Richmond, like I said, and at Dover. So I think it's pretty well earned. It'll be interesting to see what he can do the rest of this season, because he's been a little bit inconsistent, but when he's good, he's good, and he's a threat for the win when he is good. So it'll be interesting to see what else he can do behind the wheel of that 48 car, and he's got 2 more years to show it. Needless to say, Hendrick's got a pretty good group of drivers in his stable right now, all young guns. You got Kyle Larson, the defending champion, Chase Elliott. You got William Byron, and you got Alex Bowman now for another 2 years. So Hendrick is looking really good for many years to come, I would say. And of course, they're going to be a threat to win the championship again this year. Only this time it's with Kyle Larson, based on how well that 5 team's been running. But one other thing I wanted to talk about, there was a couple things actually. The first thing I wanted to talk about was the All-Star race debrief. Like I said, I watched it. I didn't bother taking notes or anything because I wasn't going to review it. But for what it was, I mean, the format was a little bit confusing for some people. It was a 6-round format. But basically, the first 4 rounds were to set the field for basically a 30-lap feature for round 5 and then a 10-lap trophy dash for the 6th round. So it wasn't as confusing as it probably could have been. But for what it was, you know, it was a 510 horsepower package, and Brad Keselowski even went on record as saying that we shouldn't be running this package everywhere. But for the All-Star race, for what it was, I mean, it was alright. I mean, it wasn't boring, I'll tell you that much. Unlike some of the All-Star races that we've seen in the past, which is a bit of a surprise considering that's at Texas Motor Speedway this year. But for what it wasn't terrible. It was actually interesting. It was not boring. And that final run of race, when Larson, Elliott, and Keselowski were going at it, and they went 3 wide off of turn 4, I was like, oh shit, this could get big. And Larson was able to hold Keselowski at bay and get that $1 million bonus. He's actually won 2 All-Star races in a row, because remember, he wasn't able to compete last year. So the last 2 All-Star races he's entered, he's won. So, but for what it was, the All-Star race was not terrible. It'd be interesting to see where the All-Star race is held next year, although based on the deal that, you know, they had with Texas Motor Speedway, you know, having to give up one of their points paying races for Circuit of the Americas, I would say the All-Star race is probably going to go back to Texas Motor Speedway next year. For the most part, you know, what it was this year, it was okay. For what it was this year, it was alright. I'm not going to completely dunk on it. You know, obviously they were trying some things that you wouldn't normally see in the Cup Series. And for what it was alright. I'm not going to completely shit on it, because it wasn't boring and it wasn't a total piece of shit. So, there you go. But what is a piece of shit is Fox's below par coverage of NASCAR this year. Like, I can't even begin to tell you, and Eric Steb actually hit on this in a few instances, and he actually did an in-depth video on it as well. But Fox's coverage, I mean, there was a time when I would look forward to their NASCAR coverage, you know, back when they first started with NASCAR. You know, they had the team of Mike Joy, Larry McReynolds, and Darrell Waltrip, and that was the threesome right there. But the last couple of years, Fox's coverage has been atrocious. Like, missing certain things on the racetrack. Like, there was a race a couple weeks ago where Logano had to make an unscheduled pit stop. I can't exactly remember which race it was, but I think it was the Coke 600. And the guys in the booth didn't even acknowledge it until like 20 laps afterwards, which is completely unacceptable because, you know, yes, Logano has fans. I'm not a big fan of Logano, but he does have his fans, and if I was one of those fans, I'd be wondering, what the hell happened to Logano right there? And when you don't hear about anything about it for 20 fucking laps, wouldn't that piss you off? Not to mention all the insane amount of full screen commercials. Like, we race fans don't watch NASCAR for the fucking commercials, okay? And there have been way too many goddamn many of them things here in 2021. And honestly, the last couple of years of Fox coverage, the full screen commercials have been fucking ridiculous. Okay, especially when you consider the fact that, I'm able to watch Formula One not caution free, but commercial free. You have IndyCar who has, picture in picture, side by side. They can do their, ads while still showing the action on the racetrack. Now, while Fox did that occasionally, it was nowhere near enough. And it just seemed like, they just... Not to mention that the chemistry, there's only so much that, of Jeff Gordon and Clint Boyer, them, doing jokes on each other and all that shit. And then there was I can't remember which race it was, but they had a random segment with Jay Leno in the middle of the fucking race. It's like, nobody gives a shit about this shit. Like, why aren't you showing this on the fucking pre-show? Why are you doing this in the middle of the fucking race? Like, it's absolutely fucking ridiculous. So, Fox's coverage this year was absolute fucking dog shit. And it made a lot of fans, yell with joy when NBC finally took over, and their coverage was actually pretty damn good today. There were some full screen commercials, of course, but, them explaining things, keeping on top of everything, giving constant reports, from pit road about what's going on and all that shit, giving, mindful exposition, about all the shit that's been going on and what could have potentially happened during the race. It was miles better than the shit that Fox provided us in 2021. So, the Fox broadcast team, they need to get their fucking act together and really improve some things for 2022. Like more side-by-side commercials, so that way we don't miss the racing action. If you gotta do your commercials, that's fine. But do the fucking picture-in-picture thing so you can do your damn ads and we don't have to miss a damn moment of the action. I remember a couple of times in 2019 where we would get a battle for the lead developing, and then they would go right to a commercial as the lead, like a lead change was getting ready to happen, and then they would go right to a commercial break as the lead change was happening. Like, what the fuck is that shit? Like, that's fucking nonsense, man. So, when the coverage switched over from Fox to NBC, there was a lot of people that were like, yeah, finally, we get better coverage. And NBC has basically blown them away in just one race. So, Fox's coverage was absolutely fucking dog shit this year. They need to get their act together because this is unacceptable as far as I'm concerned. But what else was unacceptable is just how, and I've mentioned this on a couple of different occasions, how fucking putrid this fan base is. On a lot of different things. Like, the constant complaining about the dumbest shit is just really fucking aggravating to me. And some of the mindless shit, that I've seen this season, including last week at the All-Star race. It's just, this fan base may be the worst fan base in all of sports right now. With how toxic they are and how they just love to flip-flop on things. And just how absolutely fucking nonsensical they are. Now, I don't really take this poll seriously, but it kind of goes to show you how fucking stupid this fan base can be. Jeff Cluck holds a poll and they ask the question, did you think so-and-so race was good? Well, Dover got a 60% to the yes. It was a little over 60%. And the Circuit of the America race, which was statistically and visually a much more entertaining race than Dover was, the fan base only voted I think it was 50 some odd percent, 52 to 55% in the yes. So essentially, the fan base was saying that Dover was better than Circuit of the Americas. Like, what type of fucking knife circle of hell bullshit is that? Like, are you fucking serious? There is no way on God's green earth that Dover was better than Circuit of the Americas. I don't give a fuck what circle of hell we're in right now. Dover was fucking trash. And you're honestly going to tell me that Circuit of the Americas, where we saw the first ever rain race in Cup Series history, the first true rain race in Cup Series history, yes, it had its problems, but if you're honestly going to tell me that Dover was better than a rain race Circuit of the Americas, you need to be put into a fucking insane asylum and the key thrown away. Like, that's absurd. It's absurd. It's lunacy. Like, there are actually people that thought that Dover, which was absolutely putrid fucking dog shit, nobody could pass all day. The statistics even showed as much. And there were people actually saying that Dover was a better race than Circuit of the Americas. Get the fuck out of here with that bullshit. And then if that wasn't enough fucking nonsense, there was a part right before the All-Star race began that cars were doing their parade laps. And there was a segment where they were showing the starting grid. And there was a performance by Sammy Hagar doing I Can't Drive 55. I'm going to be completely honest. I actually thought that was pretty damn cool. You know, it's during the All-Star race. You know, he obviously, he loves the sport. And he came out and basically did his signature song. And the fans there seemed to dig it as well. And yet there were some people online that were just shitting all over it, saying, oh my god, I can't believe they would do such a thing. And and there were also some NASCAR tubers, I'm not going to name names, that were basically shitting over it and being like, oh, let's not ever do that again. And it's just like, really, people? You're honestly going to fucking complain about basically an impromptu concert during the fucking pace laps for the race. So basically you're saying that instead of watching a brief Sammy Hagar concert where he did his signature song, you would rather watch fucking commercials. Like, are you that fucking stupid? Like, what the fuck is wrong with this fan base? I mean, Jesus H fucking Christ. If this fan base's collective IQ was any lower, they would fucking trip on it. And you wonder why I don't ever want to associate with this fan base. Why would I want to be associated and lumped in with a bunch of fucking brain dead morons like that? That do nothing but constantly bitch no matter what the fuck goes on in the race. Like, even if things go the way that they supposedly want it to go, they still find something to fucking bitch about. Hey, see, I level criticism at NASCAR all the fucking time, yes. But I level criticism at NASCAR when it is warranted. I have given them their due as well, and I've also given them their criticism when it is warranted. I don't bitch about something just for the fucking sake of bitching. When I have a legitimate criticism, I let it be known. And if there's something that I liked that NASCAR did, I let it be known. I don't shit on NASCAR just for the sake of shitting on it. Like, what's the fucking point of that? Like Las Vegas, the Bristol Dirt Race. I mean, even though it wasn't that good, I love the fact that they, tried something different. Talladega was good, even though it wasn't as good as last year. Homestead was a damn good race, but I've also shed on them, and rightfully so, for some dumb decisions, like the tire caution at Kansas. I rightfully ripped them to fucking pieces over that one. But I don't shit on NASCAR just for the sake of doing so. If I feel like they did something legitimately wrong, that's when I decide to criticize them for it. And when they do something good or something cool happens, I let it be known as well. It's like, yeah, this is pretty cool. But I guess at the very least, with me, there's no frills and there's no bullshit. Okay? When I say something, I fucking mean it. And, maybe I don't, have the reputation or the clout, as people like to call it, because I don't have a very large subscriber base. But you think that really fucking matters to me? I'm going to come on here and say whatever the fuck I want. And it's how I fucking feel. At least I'm honest in that respect. If I think it's good, I say so. If I think it needs to be criticized, I say so. And in the past 2.5 years of doing this, that has not changed one fucking bit. I've given races good ratings, and I've given races middling ratings, and I've also given races bad ratings when it's warranted. That's what you're supposed to do as a reviewer. You're supposed to take everything into consideration. And I try to do that to the best of my ability. I mean, there are times when I honestly don't really do a good job, or I don't feel like doing a good job. But, look at all the fucking notes that I take, for these races. I mean, you can't tell me that I'm not trying to do my due diligence. I sit there and watch these races for 3 to 4 fucking hours, and I take down notes, try to be as diligent as I possibly can when I do my reviews. Because that's what you're supposed to do. And yes, sometimes it can be a bit opinionated, but that's part of the deal. And that's part of being honest. And I'm also the type of guy to stick to my guns, unless there's extreme evidence to the contrary, I'm not going to change my opinion on something. And I've long said that this playoff format is fucking garbage, and I said that even before the playoffs were brought into existence. I mean, when I heard about that they were considering bringing it in, I was like, no, this is not going to work. This is going to be fucking trash. And wouldn't you know it, it's basically completely destroyed the legitimacy of the sport. And to this day, 7 years later, I have still never accepted this playoff format, and I never will. It's gimmicky bullshit trash. And it's something that I will never accept. Like, literally, every other motorsport does the season-long format. Why does NASCAR feel the need to do it? NASCAR doesn't need it. And they will probably never get rid of the playoff format, because if they do get rid of the playoff format, that basically means that they're admitting failure. That this whole playoff format bullshit was a failure. Thing is, it's already a failure. It was supposed to bring in, basically they were trying to appeal to the casual audience, the casual race fan. And they were also trying to appeal to people that were not necessarily race fans, but were sports fans. And they thought that, the idea of a playoff format, a stick and ball format in NASCAR, would bring those fans in. Problem is, if they're not motorsports fans, they're not going to give a shit. And really all you did was alienate your own fan base, which is why in 2018 we saw the lows that NASCAR dipped to, and it was the lowest that they ever had in terms of attendance and ratings. Now, thankfully, it started a rebound. Of course, we saw a sold-out crowd at Nashville today. finally moving past this pandemic shit, basically almost a year and a half after it began, starting to get back to normal for the most part, which is great. So NASCAR is starting to rebound a little bit, but this playoff format is not helping. And it's not getting NASCAR fans engaged for the final 3 races of the year. I mean, those 3 races are still kind of in purgatory in terms of TV ratings. And it's like Slapshoes said in his video, people don't watch playoffs because they're playoffs. People watch playoffs because they want to see the best teams go at it. And when you have 16 full-time teams, which is nearly half of the full roster, competing for the championship, it just completely waters down the product as a whole. For God's sake, the NCAA is considering expanding the playoff from 4 to 12. 12 is too goddamn much. 6 would have been an optimal number, because you have the big five conferences, and then you could also add the 6, which is from the group of 5. You could have a group of 5 representative, and you have your 6 playoff teams, the 5 big conference champions and a group of 5 conference champion, and there's your 16 playoff. 12 is just too goddamn much. And when Major League Baseball expanded their playoff last year because of the pandemic, a lot of people were saying that it was a bad idea. And what you know it, ratings went down for the World Series. It was the lowest ratings that the World Series had ever seen. So this whole playoff shit needs to go. I wouldn't mind stages if they didn't throw the caution flag. Just let the race run green. Throw the green and white checkered flag to end the stage, award points accordingly, and then just keep the race green. That would be absolutely spectacular. And, honestly, some of these races need to be shortened a little bit, because there are times when these races can really feel like a real drag. Mainly some of the 500-mile races. We need to get rid of some of the 500-mile races, shorten it down to maybe 350 or 400 miles, because some of these races can be a real drag at times. But that's pretty much all I've got to say. This has been one hell of a review. A lot of talking points. I think this has been the longest review of the year so far. But like I said, there was a shit ton to talk about. A lot of things I wanted to get off my chest about certain things, like Fox just absolutely sucking a ball sack. His fan base continuing to be a toxic fucking mess. Larson kicking ass, as he's done for the last month or so. And now we've got the doubleheader at Pocono coming this weekend. Oh boy. Of course, I've already let it be known that I'm not a big fan of the doubleheaders. We tried it 3 times last year between Dover, Michigan, and Pocono, and all 3 of them sucked a big pile of dicks. So I'm not a fan of this doubleheader format. I think it's fucking garbage. We saw it 3 times last year, like I said, and it just did not work at all. All 6 races were absolutely terrible. But that's what's coming up. But after that, we have the 4th of July race, and it's at Road America. So that one is going to be something to look forward to. First time that Road America has been in the Cup Series since 1956. Why did it take 65 goddamn years for Road America to come back to the Cup Series? Well, it's pretty clear that it is a fan favorite racetrack across all forms of motorsports. And that includes IndyCar. Xfinity has been going there since 2010, I believe. So more than a decade at this point. Why did it take so damn long for Cup to go back to Road America? And you might say, well, they had the 5-year contracts. They could have gone before that. They could have gone way before that. It should not have taken more than half a fucking century to go back to Road America. But that's just my opinion on the whole thing. But, oh, damn. Felt that pop. But yeah, we got the Pocono doubleheader this coming weekend. Then we got Road America. That's gonna be something to look forward to. I forget what's after that, but you know, because I'm just fucking exhausted. It's been a long day. But that is going to do it. Finally, it's been a long video, a long live stream. But that is going to do it for tonight's edition of the Fuel, the Ally 400 review. Lots and lots to talk about tonight. So, hope you were able to grab some popcorn and sit down and enjoy this one. But Kyle Larson, man, who's going to be able to step up and stop him? At the moment, I don't see it happening. At least not anytime soon. But thank you very much for watching tonight's very long review. And until next time, and well, actually, one more thing. I will have a update video, an update live stream, I guess you could say, tomorrow night. I got some things I got to talk about as far as the channel is concerned. I will be doing basically 3 episodes of the Fuel this weekend, the 2 Pocono races, and the Formula 1 race at Red Bull Ring. They're actually doing a double whammy there, back-to-back weeks at Red Bull Ring. So it's going to be a pretty busy weekend again here on the Fuel. So there's that going on. And I also got an update video coming tomorrow night. So yay, there's that. But thank you very much for watching. And until next time, this is the Packerman signing out. See you later.
Thank you for watching tonight's video. Be sure to like and subscribe, you rats!